Hello, hello. How is everybody doing today? This is going to be a fun stream. We have a guest from the hills of Hollywood, and he's going to blow the whistle on all the crazy stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Actually, it's going to be really interesting. We're going to talk about a lot of things related to groupthink. That's why I kept the groupthink generic, because we are going to talk about COVID specifically, but we're going to talk about Hollywood generally speaking these days. I'm sure that many of you are aware of sort of the battle that actors that kind of have views that challenge sort of the acceptable narratives there, what they end up facing, and even if they can keep their jobs. So we have Felix Montano today, and he's in the green room, so I'm going to bring him in a second. But as always, I'm going to start off by just letting everybody know that, of course, right now this is simulcasting on ODYSEE, which is a great place to watch my content, but it will also be up on Locals and ROKFIN. And part of this stream will be cut from YouTube, and it will only be accessible on the other platforms after the broadcast, the live broadcast ends. So just a reminder that I am doing that to encourage people to go over to the other platforms that are less likely to boot me off and remove videos where we talk about some of this stuff. And it's a lot of fun, I think, on the other platforms, especially Locals. I'm going to give them a shout out. Locals is a great place for you to pitch story ideas to me as well. So if you haven't checked that out, it's aliceamaro.locals.com. And without further ado, somebody who has perhaps better glasses than I do, but we're going to have to vote on into the chat, Felix Montano. How are you doing?
Hi. Yeah, good.
It's good to see you. I know you're having some Wi-Fi issues, so we're gonna ask you about stuff and be gentle.
I was wondering if that was a sign or a warning, but we're gonna go with it since we figured out the cellular.
Yeah, no. Sometimes I know. Sometimes I think about that stuff. I think about that stuff before I post videos, and I think it's like the YouTube demons or something, just like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, you know?
Exactly. We're going to take this down anyway, so let's not even do it.
Yeah, you know what? I think the cool thing about being in the new media world versus being on television is that you don't lose your cool when things kind of go awry, because it's just, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I have more people following me than when I was in mainstream news. But on the other hand, it's like people are just used to it just being a conversation. So don't worry about it. Everybody will be generous with the technology side of things. I, of course, have a 1-year-old producer, so they're already used to it. Okay. So Felix, can you give us the rundown on who you are, where you've been, what you've done, and then we'll get into all the other stuff after that.
Okay. So I am Cuban-American, first generation. My father literally rode a boat with 4 friends from Havana, and they were renting the boat, and they said, well, you got to go now because they're on to you. And so they took off with like a box of saltine crackers and just started rowing. They didn't have a compass or anything. Followed a light all night. Could have been a ship, could have been Havana for all they knew, and landed on Key West. He had a 6th grade Cuban education and fled communism and Castro, and he was almost thrown in jail because of Castro right before he escaped, because he was outspoken and against it, and Castro had let everyone down a stony end. Met my mother in Hialeah. I was born in '62, and we moved and had the American dream. By 1971, I was living in Burlingame, California, a very middle-class, nice community, if people know the Bay Area, and we had the American dream: white picket fence, 2 dogs, 2 cars. My mom even was a stay-at-home mom for a while. My dad started as a busboy at a motel there, then worked his way up to construction at a hospital and building and grounds and operations and construction. And they taught me that I could do anything I ever wanted to, and it didn't matter. Nothing else mattered. You just work hard, character, and merit. So that's my upbringing. I came down to LA at 17 to be a professional dancer. I got my first job before I even graduated through correspondence, which was an old Hollywood star named Mitzi Gaynor. So I danced with her for a year and toured the world at 17 with 10 other guys, and in Bob Mackie costumes. So, and she was pretty fabulous and a great entry into Hollywood because, it was old Hollywood and it was still good Hollywood even back then in 1980. So and now I've been in the business. I also do fitness training, or I did for a long time, as kind of a bread and butter. But I've lived here and in New York and worked in both places. And done a lot of great projects. I've had an amazing dance career that I wouldn't trade for anything, traveled the world. And here I am at 59, and I started doing background about 4 years ago and really loving it and getting featured in background, and like Julie Louis Dreyfus's Secret Service on Veep, and working with her closely. That was a top 5 dream job, even though I was background, but getting to work with her closely, and that production team and writing team was amazing for the last season. So, and all of a sudden March 2020 happened, and my entire career was annihilated. One other thing is, I've been a libtard for most of those 41 years, mostly because of identity politics and because I was gay. And at the time when I was coming out in the early 80s, that was the safe haven, and that was the party that wasn't, gonna have us killed at the time. But it's certainly changed and done a 180, and so have I. And as I say, as a Latino gay man, the Democratic Party and the radical left has basically destroyed my life as I knew it. So there you go.
That's a strong statement.
And it all kind of awakened me at COVID. At COVID, they got me at COVID, when I really awakened to what was going on and the orchestrated effort for power that was happening in Washington and here in Hollywood, connected to mainstream media, and the fact that Hollywood and mainstream media are, two sides of the same coin.
So why don't we jump into COVID first? What do you mean by that? When you say that was finally, okay, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back, when was it like right at the beginning, or did it take a year for you to get to the point where you were like, what is going on here? And no, what do you mean exactly by that?
Yeah. Well, it was pretty amazing. I mean, I had started to have my questions and doubts, like a lot of friends go like, but 2 years ago you were, well, I've learned things, since 2016. And I also worked a little bit with Gavin Newsom and Senator Gillibrand, and they both were horrible people, I found out quickly, and had to jump ship because Gillibrand particularly had brought me on board to help her campaign and raise money. And host events with all my connections in New York, on Broadway, and in Hollywood. And then she was sponsoring a bullying bill because I was bullied as a kid. But she ended up throwing me under the bus, and that's a whole nother story. But the COVID thing, so back then in 2010, I had started to realize, how the sausage is made and how awful it is. And then in 2016, was that when it was? I saw what the Democrats were able to do within their own party against Bernie Sanders, and between Hillary and Bernie, and how they were willing to cheat and do all of that. That started awakening me to what was really going on within the Democratic Party, and started giving me a really bad impression of them. And so I thought, if they can do that within their own, and then of course she screwed all the primaries, except for forgot to coordinate actual general election win. Right, she won Bernie's, but they forgot November, to do that in November. And so, in my opinion, and so, so I had already started my awakening. Then COVID happened, and there was something my gut said, this is not right. I grew up in 1980s in New York during the AIDS crisis, and it was offensive to me what was going on around this, basically a flu, which we knew back then was basically a flu, and if anything was a bad flu. I mean, we knew this science early on, and people just ignored it. The mainstream media just ignored it, and this snowballed. And I knew it was going to affect my business. I just didn't know how much. And here I am, 15 going on 16 months later, and my business is still acting like we're in May 2020 with a PPE and onset protocols and testing every day of hundreds and thousands of people in the business. And it's just mind-blowing. But again, through the last year, I realized how connected they were with the politics of this, because that's all it is political theater and politics. So so that's how I started awakening. But suddenly I ran into this random clip by Steve Deace, the Steve Deace Show on Blaze TV. And it was a clip with Scott Atlas, who ended up being a COVID, White House COVID, staff, leader or whatever towards the end of Trump's, term, and then ended up quitting because they smeared him. He was from Stanford, him and Ioannidis, and he's from the Hoover Institute, I think, or yeah. So Scott Atlas, which people will know that know what they're talking about. And I saw a clip, and he was saying all of this back in April, and Steve Deace blew the whistle on all of this. And for the ensuing year, Steve Deace has just attacked the non-science and has a great book called Faucian Bargain, which was #1 on Amazon right out of the gate. It's a paperback, and of course nobody covered it, but obviously had some momentum. So that's how I started getting into the crap that was going on in Hollywood, realizing this was all a scam. And so then, but I thought, just keep your mouth shut and just wait. This will pass. This will pass. This will pass. It wasn't.
Felix,
passing. So we started.
Can I bust in real fast for a second?
In June, they started working very little, and then I started.
Ooh, can you hear me?
Sorry.
Well, I was just going to ask you, when you're as this is happening, can you describe, like, as you're, reading this new material or watching this new material, what is happening in Hollywood at the time? Like, can you run us through some of how life changed? Because you were saying that your business was really hurting. Like, what was happening on that side of things?
On which side of Hollywood? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part.
When you're talking about
what part?
Life in Hollywood, yeah, as you're engaging in this other material that's going against what life is like or what people are saying in the Hollywood scene, what is it like in Hollywood at the time? Oh. Felix, can you hear me? He's frozen. He's gone. Maybe we'll get him back in a second. How's everybody doing? I'm going to go through the chat. It's funny because his Wi-Fi internet provider told him that they were going to, I know he's frozen, told him that they were going to be out until 10:30, and I just risked it. And I think he's coming back. Hang on. I risked it and said, you know what, let's just schedule it for 10:30 anyway. And we'll cross our fingers that everything goes well. And yeah, Hollywood nuked his internet. He's there, but I don't see a camera. I'm going to text him real fast and let him know. So how's everybody doing? Oh, here he is. Okay, he's back. All right, everybody. I hope we didn't lose too many people. Here we go.
Hollywood.
Wait, here you are. Felix, hang on.
Go ahead.
We lost you. Can you go, if you were saying something, can you go back to the beginning?
Yes. Yeah, go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So what felt here in Hollywood? How it felt here in Hollywood? You want me to tell you at that time, at the beginning and all that, and what the feeling was?
Yes.
Okay. Are we good now?
You're good. Yeah. I was just saying, since you were kind of talking about the information that you were receiving that was changing your mind, but you didn't really talk about what was the opposing viewpoint, or what
I knew what the real science was saying, so it was really frustrating. Go ahead.
Yeah, what was life like in Hollywood? Like what was happening there at the time?
Well, first of all, everybody in Hollywood, I've been in the business 41 years. It keeps going in and out.
You're here. We got you.
Okay, I'm here. Okay, so I've been in the business 41 years, and I know the chances of becoming a star, but you got to understand, there's so many people that don't last long. I'm lucky because I model, I dance, and I act, and I was able to always reinvent myself in some way in the industry. Most people are just waiting for fame, and they'll do anything, and so most people are just shut up and do what you're told, especially anything below, the actors and the production and crew. I mean, if the public knew the hierarchy on a set, it would make their hair curl on the back of their neck. I mean, stand up, because it's just so, the crap rolls downhill, and the hierarchy and the class system on a set is so crazy. So everybody went along with it, and that's what was so frustrating to me, is that no one would stand up. So I started, then that's when I started asking questions last August of unions. Who is making these requirements? Why are you making these requirements? And I mean, what are you basing it on? And I got ignored basically by all the unions, and my union, SAG, which I'm a paying dues member, but they didn't care. I called SAG Legal. They didn't care. They basically brushed me off. And I felt like I might just have to suck it up and work under these conditions. So do you want me to go into the conditions of on-set work now with COVID?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right? Are we good?
You're good.
Okay, so we test 2 and 3 days before we even work on one show. However, there's a discrepancy because that's TV and film. But on a commercial, a SAG commercial, you only have to have your temperature checked when you get to set, depending on the production. So I didn't understand that discrepancy in the science. Like, if we can have our temperature check and be asymptomatic, which also is a bunch of crap now because you're not contagious, but they also knew this at the beginning. They were just keeping it going in the media. So so we had to get tested for a film or a TV show. Sometimes in the morning when we got there to work, we would have to be tested again, and then at lunch. The Ricardos, which just filmed with Javier Bardem and Nicole Kidman, was making their cast and crew test at lunch and in the morning when they got there, and at lunch. And this was already having like multiple tests before they got to work the first day. And it's a nasal swab. So there's millions and millions of dollars spent on testing and PPE for all these shows still to this day. And I didn't understand. It just made no sense to me, since Hollywood was always nickel and diming everyone. I mean, our overtime is in 10-minute increments because they don't want to pay a penny extra. But that's when I started realizing how involved they were in the political theater of this all. And it being a photo op, for everyone to see, and also the cahoots they were involved in with Garcetti and Newsom that had to be, because they're the only ones that would allow anything to happen. So they had to create these outrageous protocols and become essential workers. But I was talking to a COVID monitor that I know, and our PPE and protocols on set are even more than at a hospital. That's how crazy it is. And so I started working, and it was really difficult because we had to separate apart. We couldn't face each other in chairs that were social distanced. Them on set that, everyone on set that is a PA has this authority problem. So we were abused by them, verbally, if we didn't follow the protocols or if we made a mistake, and told not to eat at lunch and speak. We couldn't speak to each other while we were eating lunch. That's still going on. And has to be sprayed down and sanitized between in the changing rooms. Before, they used to just throw us into a changing room like cattle and have us all change in there. Now it had to be all separated and sprayed, sanitized between each person. The vans were 4 people to one of those, Mercedes kind of transpo vans, and we had to sit by an open window at the end of the aisles. Couldn't sit next to anybody, and they could only take 4 at a time. So that was huge expenses, and it just was mind-boggling to me that we were doing that. And are we okay so far, or am I talking to nothing? Are we okay so far? We're off again. Can you hear me? Yes, we're good. We're good. Going. Okay.
Oh shoot!
Right, so
I just realized I was
can't hear you,
muted.
though,
I just realized I was muted.
There you are. Are we all good?
We're good. We're good. Sorry,
Are
I
we
was
good?
muted. I was typing to the chat to let them know what was going on, and my bracelets keep hitting the desk, so I didn't want them to distract
So anyway,
you.
I mean,
We're good.
Listen, let me just suffice it to say it's a nightmare. But my real nightmare came true, and I realized the scam in January when I was working on a show, and I had to go get tested 3 times before I worked on this show. This was in January. It was a show at Paramount. And so you drive through, get a nasal swab. And the thing is, that's also inconsistent. It's like, really, sometimes it's just the first couple of, like the first inch in your nose, sometimes it's all the way back in your brain, you know, and then sometimes you get
Oh, gross.
a lot. It just, and it's called the antigen test. These tests, and I tested positive. I did 2 tests negative, and then on the Friday, I test positive before the Monday I'm supposed to work. And I'm like, first of all, I don't feel anything. And it's been over a year, and I don't do anything in my personal life, like masking or anything like that, because it's all BS. So I'm going to go and get my own. So I go to the urgent care because, you know, our insurance company is covering everything. And same urgent care, negative. Went back
Oh,
and it came positive. And she's
Felix,
my,
can you hear me? You're kind of breaking up. How's your internet right now? Do you want to, did the internet come back on?
done with any other booking company for 9 days.
I'm texting you. I'm texting you. Can you hear me? You're kind of going in and out. I'm wondering, did they put your Wi-Fi back on? Because maybe you should dump out and reconnect. Hang on, everyone. What I think is hilarious about all of this is that he's connecting again. Hang on. What I think is hilarious about this is that Felix and I are like professional showmen, you know what I mean? We're like professional showmen, and we can't figure this out. So oh, he's still Felix. Can you hear me?
I'm so sick. I don't know where we got. I was testing. Yeah.
Yeah. Is your did they put your Wi-Fi back on or no?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes, but did they redo your is your Wi-Fi back up?
I don't think so. It's still
that dang internet company.
No.
Lord. Okay, well the connection seems to be better.
Either that or they're trying to silence me.
The part where you started to get kind
testing,
of.
So I went in. She tells me this is when it started to dawn on me. She goes, "You really want to know?" Can't hear you. Sorry.
Well, what I was going to say, no, what I was telling you was you started kind of breaking up
to the audience. Can you hear me?
They're holding with it. What I was going to ask you is I heard you about when you were saying that sometimes
Sorry, guys.
it's okay. That sometimes they stick it up all the way to your brain. That was when you started getting kind of iffy.
A couple of, like, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just a little bit up your nose. Sometimes it's all the way back to your brain. Okay. Sometimes it's swab, saliva swab. So, you know, there's no uniform. And then I got reported as a case. And as it got reported from the antigen test, you know, the city called me, you know, then I got my own test at the urgent care, tested positive, then tested negative. And Monday, I go on Monday, I go with false negatives with the antigen. I go and the girl tells me, if you really want to know if you have COVID, we should do the PCR test. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? She says, well, yeah, the antigen just tells you if you have cold or a flu. And I'm like, whoa, wait. So we're basing all of these cases and quarantining on sets with an antigen that's not a PCR test? And the PCR test is faulty anyway, as it is? And you're just telling me if I have a flu or a cold? She said, yeah, basically. So we did the PCR test, but I wasn't going to get until the following Friday. So this Sunday, January 10th or 11th or whatever. So I go home. I'm on my way home. She called me and says, Felix, it came back positive again, your antigen, the rapid one. So you probably have it. You should probably home and quarantine. I go to Trader Joe, look up. I come home and lay down and wait in the sweet angel of death. I'm 59, so I don't know. You know, at this point, I've got it, and now I don't know how it's going to affect me.
You're 59?
I don't have any comorbidities. I think I'm going to do my D, my zinc, mine all. So all I got. Huh? Go ahead. Are we good?
No, I was going to say you're 59. What is your secret?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just can't believe you're 59 years old.
I'm 59. Yes.
That's crazy. I wouldn't have put you. Oh, he's a boomer. He's a boomer. Is he? I don't know. Is 59 a boomer? But he's gone again. Do you guys think we should try to redo this when he has Wi-Fi? I'm kind of wondering if we should just redo this. The sad thing is that I have a producer who's actually sleeping right now. And so I really did not want to have to reschedule this because y'all know how it is trying to fit it around my daughter's nap schedule. But I'm kind of wondering if we should reschedule because Felix has a lot of great things to say. And okay, hang on.
It's such a
Felix, should we reschedule? Do you think we should redo this when you have when your Wi-Fi is back on this afternoon?
It's you, and I'm bummed out. You know.
Don't be bummed. The show will go on.
Okay.
We will not we will not let the Hollywood patriarchs take us off the air.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? They're probably monitoring my house.
I mean, right now you sound really good,
so
but it's just that it goes.
I mean,
I was just gonna say you sound really good right now, but it just keeps
like this. Yeah, it cuts us off. Maybe it's
Let's reschedule. You have too many. Let's reschedule. I think we should reschedule this afternoon. I'm going to ask the chat. It looks like people are going to return to hear what you have to say. We'll just start over. And are you around this afternoon?
Okay, because the test, just so your viewers know, this testing blew a lot of people's minds, and I also don't even know why we haven't connected it in the general population with the case numbers that they were feeding us all the time. So that's the next part. So yeah. Okay.
I think if you're around this afternoon,
this intro?
we're going to just redo the whole thing. We'll just go live again.
I'm around whenever you want. We're still locked down in California, basically.
Okay. Nowhere. Okay. Well,
can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now I can hear you.
You want me to text you?
I can hear you.
Let's reschedule for this afternoon, and hopefully everybody can still come back and join us. And then we'll just start from the beginning, and we'll make it clean. And then just let me know when your Wi-Fi is back up, and then everybody can hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Good? Okay. All right. See you later, Felix. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
We're going to get this hopefully this afternoon. Okay.
Everybody.
Don't apologize. It's totally fine. Okay. Bye, everyone.
The universe doing whatever it's doing.